Hey there, you are watching Bare Knuckle Binder. Welcome to the channel. If you love all things International Harvester, especially before 1960, this is a fantastic channel for you to be on. Currently, I am working on a 1954 International Harvester R170 4x4, and the 4x4 on this one is a Coleman conversion, which to me is the peak of vintage 4x4 coolness. Now this week's video, I'm sure is going to be a hotbed in the comment section because as you could tell from the intro, I'm going through and I'm doing patina stuff to this truck. Now the entire patina discussion it's something that you're never gonna win because everyone's got their own opinion about how things should be restored or fixed up or preserved. And it really just comes down to what you like. Before we get too far into this, I have to say that the entire patina movement, I don't know if that's the right word for it, patina craze, let's say, the whole patina craze really has come about in the last 10 years, especially in the last 5 years. Even to the point that people are painting fake patina onto vehicles. Some ways they can do this is try to airbrush fake rust onto stuff, or painting multiple layers of different colored paint onto the vehicle and then taking a buffing wheel and buffing through them. It gives it this kind of jawbreaker look. However, this is all real. This is all vintage layers of paint. I always seem to end up with vehicles with amazing patina just because they're old junk that I can afford. Plus I don't like to buy shiny stuff. I'd rather fix stuff up. But I'm getting off the point here. Let's talk about patina. I wouldn't call myself a patina guy. This seeing multiple layers of beat up paint doesn't really do much for me, but I am an original paint guy. I love to find anything I can and uncover secrets to a truck's past. I found this out years ago with my 49 KB2 that most of the dull, lifeless, light green paint was just oxidized paint on top of the original paint. And with a little bit of elbow grease and scrubbing, I was able to bring back pretty much most of the original paint on that truck. So it's pretty impressive to see what you can do. I just wanted to walk through a few things without really pushing my opinion on it, but I'll show you a few things that you can do to kind of get the results you want. Now there's a lot of products that are out there. The two that come to mind are Sweet Patina and Poppy's Patina. And they are both, from what I hear, they're both great products, great companies, good people running them. And I have a lot of friends who use either and both, and they swear by both, and they really love the results. In fact, Poppy's Patina has sent me some product to use. I just have not got around to using it. I really want to use it on the 49 KB2 when I get to that point with it, but I'm replacing the grill and all this stuff. We'll get there. But before those two products were on the scene, I was already doing stuff to the paint on my trucks, trying to figure out how to maintain original paint or bring it out. And so I found just a few tricks, nothing earth-shattering here, but I'll walk through and show you the difference in how stuff looks if you're considering doing any of this stuff to your vehicle. So before I get into the materials you need on hand to start treating finishes like this, you need to understand really the concept of what you're doing. The first thing you're doing is you need to take off a surface level of oxidation, because when old paint oxidizes, it sits on top, and that's what dulls the paint and discolors it, and then moss can grow on it, all that stuff. But once you get that scraped off, you need to treat it with something to bring out the color and to just preserve it, or else it's just going to oxidize immediately again. So here's what you need. First off, you need an abrasive to take the oxidation off. My two preferences are steel wool. For something that's never been treated or hasn't been treated in decades, I would use something coarse, like number 4 steel wool. It's pretty coarse. That's what I've been using on this. If it's been treated in the past and you're just trying to shine it up or something, I would use O or double O steel wool. As far as chemicals that we're gonna put on this, you're gonna use a mixture of boiled linseed oil and mineral spirits. I have to say that I used to only use boiled linseed oil on these finishes, and using mineral spirits mixed in with it is a better way to get what you want, no matter how you go about doing it. The old way that I used to do this was just to pour boiled linseed oil on something and either use steel wool or Scotch pads and just sit there and scrub on it. Now everything that you scrub off of the surface of this is going to be oxidized paint, it's going to be rust, it's going to be dirt, it's going to be moss, it's just going to be garbage, let's say. and the oil, it suspends those particles of garbage, and then you go back over it with a rag and you wipe it off, and then you get a really cool finish. Now, if you just use linseed oil, the problem with it is that linseed oil is really sticky, and it stays sticky until it cures. But the plus side of using just boiled linseed oil is that if you do it under the right conditions, it will cure to a hard, shiny shellac. So if it's done correctly, it will actually stay shiny and really cool looking for 6 months at a time sometimes, but you have to do it correctly. Now, treating something with linseed oil and a mixture of mineral spirits, it will be more of a dull finish, but it will clean it up really quickly. It will dry quickly, and you'll have pretty much immediate results. Like, you could treat a vehicle with it and an hour later be driving it down the road. If you treated a vehicle with just boiled linseed oil, if you just drove it down the road right away, the thing would be covered in dust because it's like a dust magnet. It's so sticky until it cures. So let's look at a difference of how they look, and then I'll get in to show you just how you do it. It's really easy. As long as I've been leaning on this hood the whole time and using it as a backdrop, this hood, I treated this hood partially. I mean, I went over the whole thing, but I need to treat it more. So I'll use this as an example in real time. But this hood has been treated with a mixture of boiled linseed oil and mineral spirits. I've gone over it with steel wool, wiped off the excess. It's not to where I want it yet. I mean, you can still feel it's not smooth yet. You can still feel some oxidation, and there's some parts I missed here. It's interesting to see this paint. This paint was a top coat. The yellow was a second coat, and the base coat was this red. And it was really cool. I didn't even know this until I started doing this. And this comes back to the history. I do this a lot of times just to uncover the history of a vehicle. And part of the history of this thing is that when they painted the yellow on here, they left the red, so they had a two-tone red stripe going down each side of this hood. I want to take off this a little bit more and see if I can get more of it exposed. But anyway, this is what a boiled linseed oil mixed with mineral spirits looks like. It's got a dull finish, but it's clean and it's dry. I can run my hand over this thing all day long, and I could, like 20 minutes, to an hour after I did this. Now, you probably saw in the intro where I was working on a door, and I got it to be about like this, and then I just poured straight boiled linseed oil on it and wiped it on it, and it started shining up immediately. Now, that door is right here, and it's still shiny. You can see it it's much shinier than the hood is. And I can touch it, and actually the driver's side door is even shinier. But I mean, I can touch that now, and it's just barely a little bit of tack to it. So it's still setting up, so I don't want to touch it too much. I'll show you a comparison of what they look like. So this fender, what I started out the intro with, both doors and this fender, I went over all of them with linseed oil and mineral spirits, got them all cleaned up, and then I just wiped straight boiled linseed oil onto it and then wiped off the excess. And this is what it looks like. Now, this is a finish that a lot of people want. I'm not getting my own opinion into this. I actually don't really want it like this, but I did want to make this video and show you the differences. So once you kind of do it to one piece, you kind of got to do it to all of them. But no matter what, it's cool. It looks cool. But the only thing is, this is the kind of finish where you start getting into the part that people who really don't like patina or treated patina, they don't like it because you have the awkward look of wet rust, as people call it. So it is what it is, but the paint that is there, I mean, that's a really cool look. You get to see decades of history kind of blended together. So this is boiled linseed and mineral spirits, cleaned off, and then treated with linseed oil. Now, this is mostly an untreated fender. This is the driver's side fender, passenger side fender. Now, this one, I did a little bit of cleanup on this. So you can see this is this very light cleanup with boiled linseed and mineral spirits. I did not get into this much, and you know, I like here you can tell I didn't get into any of this. It's just this one spot here, but it's a really good illustration of the difference in the two. If I went through and just really cleaned this up more, this would end up looking more like that hood and less like that, because it gets clean, it's getting smooth. You know, here obviously I didn't do anything. There's even moss and random stuff there, but you know, it does clean it up, and you can see the history of this thing, because obviously this is the top coat, bottom coat. I will say one thing, sometimes you find stuff that you're not expecting, and it really looks like this fender was replaced at one point, because this one was originally green, and no other piece that I found on this truck so far was originally green, only this one fender. So just a little crash course in if you're trying to bring out original paint. If you're trying to bring out original paint, I would obviously suggest going over it with boiled linseed oil and mineral spirits, just to see what's underneath the oxidation. And then if you decide that you want a little bit of a shine to it, you can go over it with the boiled linseed oil, but then you're also running the risk of having the wet rust look. So there's that. And of course, over here we got the bed fenders. And I've got to do a little bit of straightening out dents, and then I'm gonna go over and I'll treat those with the linseed and mineral spirits, but that's gonna be a lot of wet rust if I go over the shiny parts. Of course, you want to talk about the history of this truck. You can still slightly see University of Iowa on here. And there, on that one, you could see in the intro video where it actually uncovered a little bit and then took it off. The thing is, some of these top coats, it's gonna come off no matter what, so. Some people will get really adamant, especially about vehicles that aren't theirs, and say, well, you know, that's the history of the truck, you know, you ruin all. Man, let's get real. Like, are these people establishing, curating, and maintaining museums for their own vehicles? Like, that's, yeah, you've got pictures of it. Yes, it's very cool to maintain old hand lettered writing on doors and stuff, but if it's gonna come off, it's gonna come off, you know, and you can do your best to preserve it, but. So that's a pretty good overview of the process, how it works, how to get the finish you want. But there's two things I have to mention real quick. One is a safety concern. Thing about boiled linseed oil is that when it's crumpled up on rags, when there's rags soaked in it and you put them in a pile, they will spontaneously combust. They will start smoking and start on fire, just without any form of ignition. They just do it by themselves. So what you want to do is you want to either A, do like I do, and I just put them in the wood stove immediately, and it doesn't become an issue. Or you can spread them out by themselves to dry and then throw them away. Or you can douse them in a water bucket. Either way, be safe. Don't think it can't happen to you. It will happen to you. I've done it by accident. Been like, oh, what's smoking? It smells like burning, and it's the rags. The other thing, wear gloves. This stuff smells weird, you know. It smells, I don't know how to say it, but it just smells weird. Wear gloves. And I guess at the start of this, I said if you do it correctly, boiled linseed oil will finish to a nice hardened shellac, shiny finish. Those perfect conditions, like when I'm in Texas, that is a really hot, sunny day and no wind, because the stuff is sticky and dust will stick to it. Nothing sucks worse. Well, a lot of things suck worse, but it's really annoying when you spend a lot of time and work sweating it out on a hot day, and then a bunch of dust covers it and sticks to it, and then you gotta start all over again. So what I've been doing in here is that, well, I mean, it's like 16 degrees out right now in Wisconsin. I have been treating this stuff. I do a few pieces at a time, and then I set them in front of the wood stove for hours overnight, get it nice and hot at that wood stove, and it seems to cure it pretty well. So nothing is better than really hot sunlight, because I think maybe UV rays help the whole process, but I'm not a scientist, so maybe somebody in the comments can tell me if I'm right or wrong on that. Anyway, too much talking. I'm gonna treat this more with the mixture of linseed oil and mineral spirits. As far as that mixture is concerned, I like to use almost half and half, just a little bit heavier on the linseed oil. And then I like to use number 4 steel wool, like I was saying. So you go through, you scrub an area of the thing, lift up a bunch of dirt and whatever, take your rag, wipe off the surface. Move to a different spot, do the same thing. And when we get the whole thing done, we'll go over it with boiled linseed oil and get it to shine. So the stuff you want to have on hand: boiled linseed oil, odorless mineral spirits, steel wool, Scotch pads, and rags to wipe it off. It looks good. Obviously, you can see all the lights shining off of it. It is still wet, clearly. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this thing off the sawhorses and I'm gonna put it right here in front of the stove, and it's gonna sit there, I would guess, most of the day and possibly into the evening. It all depends on how hot I get the wood stove throughout the day for this to set up and cure. So I put it on there pretty thick. As you can see, the rust spots that are really rough, they will stay they suck up that oil and they kind of stay rougher looking. A lot of that, it's just texture. You know, you can hit it at certain angles in it. But anyway, that's just the nature of the beast. I'm gonna set this in front of the wood stove, and then I'm going to start on that fender, because I think that fender is going to be the biggest dramatic change that you'll see, since I had already treated that. And this one's been cleaned a little bit on this side, but all of this part has not been treated. I'm gonna take this stuff out that's no longer serving any purpose. Also, this light, it's pretty toasted. It's an old Aero 39 clearance light. I think I have another original somewhere in my stash of stuff down in Texas, so it's not gonna be anytime soon. I will get this thing up on the stands and we'll put a time lapse on it and we'll get going. Well, got her all scrubbed with a solution of linseed oil and mineral spirits. Then top coated, wiped down with the linseed oil, just 100%. Looking good. Got it set in front of the fire for the night. This thing is looking great. It's already pretty much set up. So we got all the front clip stuff and cab stuff. Still have the bed stuff, but I'm not even worried about the bed just yet. That's a whole different thing because I've got to handle it a bunch still. Like I said, knock out dents and whatnot. So I think the next step is just getting the truck back in the shop and putting it back together. All right, so in conclusion, I think we wrapped this up pretty good. I think they turned out well. We got the kind of wet patina look, which I think is pretty popular with a lot of people. I said earlier that this is a very divided topic. A lot of people don't like patina because they think you should paint a vehicle. A lot of people don't like fake patina because, it's kind of a costume party. Third, even if you're into patina, like there's people very divided about how you should present it, I guess, or treat it or whatever. And that's fine. The thing is, I don't even like the wet look myself, honestly. I mean, I don't hate it, I just don't prefer it. I will say that my preference is just to do the linseed oil mixed with the mineral spirits and just scrub it down to find, what it is like originally under the thing. I'm not trying to get the wet rust look. It's really not my preference, but if that's your thing, that's awesome. I mean, that's what makes this cool, is that vehicles become a part of personal expression. But, I don't mind doing it for this video just to show you how to achieve the result. Other thing is that if you're planning on doing something like this, or you're considering doing something like this, just keep in mind that you're not making a permanent decision. This stuff doesn't last forever. Over time, it will fade out, it'll wear off, and then you'll have to do it again if you want to maintain the look. So you don't have to worry about doing this and being like, well, now it's like this forever. It will go away. Like I said before, if you do it correctly with linseed oil and get the shiny finish, that can last up to 6 months for sure. I do want to say that I mentioned sweet patina and Poppy's patina earlier. Those are supposed to last longer from what I understand. I don't know about sweet patina, but I know that Poppy's patina is supposed to last up to 2 years. So yes, it's more expensive than doing it this way, but you're actually money and time ahead, I would think, by paying the extra coin and having it last for 2 years. All right, and I know that Poppy's patina, like I said, I'm not really familiar with sweet patina. I've heard great things about them, but Poppy's patina, I know that they have a matte satin and gloss finish. So I don't know exactly what's in there, how it works, but it can't be too far off from what we're doing. But anyway, it's a difference in quality, and the price point reflects what you're gonna get out of it. One thing I will advise you against doing, there was a way about, let's see, I'm feeling old, almost like 10 to 15 years ago, there was a thing about patina when it was really starting to catch on. And people would either Scotch pad or steel wool a finish, either dry or with water, like wet sanding it with steel wool or Scotch pads, just to get the flakes off. And then they would do a matte or a very low gloss clear coat with a paint gun from a distance of 5 to 6 feet away. And so it was a very light clear coat. And so they would clear coat this and it wouldn't like gum up. So it looked almost like this, to be honest. But the problem with that, as people found out 5 to 10 years later, is that it would trap moisture in there. And it's very hard to do something like that and get all the moisture out. It's pretty much impossible. And what would happen is moisture would get trapped in there, and then it would actually start rusting the body panels out. And then you've got to destroy all the original paint anyway to get in there to save the vehicle, because it's rusting out from the inside out and you can't even do a repair on it until you strip everything down. So I would strongly advise against the clear coat method and just stick with something like this. It's obviously it's not as permanent, but it's not destructive. So anyway, hope that was helpful. If you dug the video, please like and subscribe. That really helps me out a lot. And plus, you'll probably want to see this truck go back together. So anyway, I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.